Hello everyone, it's Jeffrey here, Skytop Shop. We're looking at a beautiful 356 coupe replica. I've received this from a client. It's got several issues and I've been entrusted to address and repair those issues, and I thought I would share the journey with you. And I'm going to call these videos, or these series of videos, Dissecting the Details. Now, the intent of these videos is not going to be to defame the character of any one person or organization. My intent is to enlighten those folks that either own or are considering purchasing a replica of any type. I mean, this obviously will be regarding Porsche 356 coupe replica, but just something to heighten your awareness, little details that you can look at in your build or a build that you're considering to purchase. So I hope this is of service to you. So with no further ado, let's dive in. Get my light up here. So one of the issues with this car was steering. So the first wheel off, we're taking a look inside. This is my first look inside. And the first thing I noticed is the horn was off as well. And if you look here, I've got my pointer, the wire coming down the steering column that actuates the horn has wrapped itself around the pitman arm of the steering box and the two tie rods where they all join together. And you can see this butt connector here. It has pulled itself apart from this wire. Now, the significance of this is not only is the horn inoperative, but imagine if this wire had wound itself between the steering shaft and one of the two tie rods or pitman arm. That could have potentially locked up the steering and caused a fatal accident. So this is totally unacceptable. You can see here the wire is bare. Like I said, it's pulled out of the butt connector here. Just very poor workmanship and could have been caused a very serious accident. Let's continue on with some other wiring issues that I can see just from this vantage point. If I zoom all the way in deeper to the chassis, and I'll move my pointer in here as well. Right here, this metal bracket supporting the front of the car. You can see the positive and ground lead coming from the battery. They're going through a metal bracket. There's absolutely no insulation, no rubber bushing, no grommet, no anything. So how long before that chafes through, and you could have certainly a serious electrical fire based just on that. Other wiring issues, we have a dead end wire here. Let me get my light and we'll just continue along, things like that. You can see the brake line coming through the Napoleon's hat, no rubber grommet. Up here in the fender well, wiring coming from the passenger compartment, no rubber grommet. This is a heater hose. This is a water-cooled Subaru 2.5 liter engine, no rubber grommet. The steering box, someone chose to use that as a ground point. Just lots of wiring issues. Details like that are things that you need to look at when you're buying, or maybe you would have a car already. Let's move on to the next interesting thing I've discovered here. So this is a water-cooled car, and they have used what looks to be 1.5 inch galvanized exhaust tubing for the coolant line. And if you notice up here, they have welded a fitting in here, but probably more interestingly, let me move my light, is how they chose to mount the tubing. This is the lower edge of the pan, and they've chosen to mount the tubing below the pan, which means if you were to ever bottom out, the sacrificial thing, the thing is going to hit first, is going to be your coolant line. I don't think that is a recommended way to mount the cooling line. could easily damage this line. But another interesting factor is they have chosen to weld the pipe to the lip of the pan. Now, galvanized pipe, if you've ever welded that, as soon as you weld through that pipe, you destroy any galvanized coating, any rust preventative. So you can already see here on this weld, it's starting to rust. So imagine on the inside of the pipe where we have the coolant, what's going on. What's even more interesting is, if we look back here in the rocker, they have loops made into the fiberglass body where they could have chosen to mount that pipe up in under the rocker. Would have been a much better protected area. We could have used green stripe or even aluminum, could have even used the same galvanized pipe and mounted it in a better location. So something to be, or have your eye open for. Another interesting thing here, this car is equipped with a fancy stereo. The speaker on the kick panel on the driver's side is right here. This is the back side of the speaker. This is just thin foam rubber painted black on the back side of the speaker. How long do you think that's going to last in the wheel well before that just breaks away and then you have water and other road debris going straight into the passenger cabin, excuse me. Here again inside, fuel line held in with a conduit clamp. No bushing whatsoever. The fuel pump, let me get my little pointer again. Past that conduit clamp that they're using to mount the rubber fuel line, you can see the fuel pump here in the background. It looks like it's wrapped in foam rubber, maybe a section of a pool noodle or a pipe insulator. Has just a couple of hose clamps around it, and that's clamped to a piece of 1.25" angle iron. It looks like it's functional. I'm not sure it's a recommended practice. Just things to keep your eye open for. Down here, the radiator mount. Not the prettiest welds, but look like they're functional. But notice that the radiator and the front chassis here are now being pressed against the sway bar of the car. Now this car is off the ground on the lift, and this sway bar is further forward than it normally would be. I'll include a picture of what it looks like when it's on the ground, but just be aware that that sway bar would take very little time to rub through that soft aluminum radiator and or hit the chassis. These are the kind of things that you hear go bump when you go over a bump in the road and you're wondering, where does that sound come from? This could be one of those areas. The suspension on this car does look like it's all new. The steering box looks like it's freshly painted. I'm assuming it could be called a rebuilt steering box, but it has a leak already, and it has about somewhere between 120 and 180 degrees of free play. Based on my drive on this car and the power that Subi motor puts out, this thing is an absolute death trap with a steering setup like this. We're going to get that steering box out of there. We have another rebuilt box, and if that doesn't tighten up the steering, we'll likely go with a rack and pinion upgrade from CSP in Germany. But anyway, these are just some of my initial findings, first wheel off on this car. Hopefully you found this useful, and there will be more to follow. Stay tuned to Skytop Shop.